Welcome back to this week's episode of Friends of Kayla. My guest today is someone who built a platform around women's holistic health, helping women understand their bodies, their cycles, and their well-being. She also has done such a unique job of incorporating what it means to be a Jewish woman in a space that is really difficult to be authentic to who you truly are, especially with a platform of over 1 million people looking at it. So, Nicole Bendayan, welcome to Friends of Kayla.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm
Great to
excited that we're
see
doing
you.
this
All the way from Toronto.
from Toronto.
How's it feel to be in Miami?
It's nice. The weather's great. I've been missing the heat, so this is lovely.
Yeah, this must be a good treat. You guys had a bad winter.
Oh my gosh, it was so long.
I've been wanting Nicole, for context, to come down to Miami for months now. We met this summer on our Birthright Storytellers trip, which is a trip that's a brand new Birthright program solely for creators. It was back when this platform had 4,000 people following it. So it's grown exponentially since then, honestly, thanks to the program. But that's where Nicole and I met. And this is such a fun full circle moment because we had a panel last week for storytellers. Now you're here. We're doing this interview, and you're in town for the Voices of Truth Combating Anti-Semitism conference next week. So you're here doing a lot of things.
We're trying to do a lot of things, and this is one of the ones that I was most excited about.
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. So Nicole, tell us just about yourself. And first and foremost, before we dive into anything Jewish, what do you do? How did you start speaking online about women's health? What's your story?
Yeah, so I am a certified holistic nutritionist, and I focus specifically on the menstrual cycle. So that's a very niche topic to get into. Definitely didn't think that I would be doing this for a living, but I'm so grateful that I am. It started off with I was on birth control for a while, had really bad symptoms, and went to go see 4 different doctors within 3 years, and every one of them fully dismissed me. Said it had nothing to do with the birth control, dismissed me. And so I ended up going off of birth control. All of my symptoms went away, and then started doing research into it, found all of my symptoms laid out. And it was very much so a moment of, whoa, I'm giving the authority of my health over to someone who may not have the resources or the time to give me actual care. So as I was going through my studying nutrition, I ended up focusing on reproductive health, doing more research into it, talked to other women, found out they knew absolutely nothing as well. And this was all during COVID. So it was kind of like, let's start talking about it online, see what happens. And so I did. And about 9 months later, I ended up going viral on TikTok, and it kind of just all went uphill from there.
What was that moment that you went viral on TikTok for?
So I was talking about my experience on birth control and what I do, pretty much helping women understand their cycles, how to live in tune with them, to for fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, in tune with the phases of their cycle. And yeah, it blew up. It had 4 million views within a few days, and I had gained 400,000 followers, instant. It was very, very quick. But for me, that was a testament to how important the information was and how much women wanted to know more about their bodies.
True. I mean, there's questions that I myself have, and I always text you one off and being like, Nicole, I have an issue with my IUD right now. What am I doing? Which is so interesting. I feel like I come from such a unique perspective because my father is a physician. So my family very much so believes in medicine and modern medicine specifically. So when it comes to women's health, I've always been very trusting with when it comes to doctors because I obviously trust my father. I've grown up with a physician in my household. But from hearing your story, especially on Birthright this summer and hearing about the work that you do with the, thousands of women that you've helped, it's really shaped my perspective and really made me take a second look at my own health and how I want to treat myself moving forward. So, did you always have this bias against the health system, or were
Okay,
you
I don't have a bias against the health system,
okay?
really. So,
Okay. Okay, sorry.
it's not that I am against Western medicine or conventional medicine, whatever it is.
Okay, that's a good
I
clarification.
think that there is a lot of gaps, especially when it comes to women's health. And when you think about women's health, women were only required to be included in medical studies since 1993. So there's very little, or there at the time was very little research. Now there's more research coming out, but even when you look at the funding into women's research specifically, it is still very lacking. So I've spoken to a lot of doctors, and I trust most doctors as well. It's not that I think that there's that they don't know what they're talking about. I just think a lot of the medical system is reactive care instead of preventative care. And especially when it comes to nutrition, like I have a background in nutrition. For a doctor to get their medical degree, they only need about 25 hours of nutritional training. So that's one course, right? And in the States, most medical programs don't even hit that. So it's not that it's malicious, it's that they might not have the information, right? So what I try to do with my clients is allow them to be active participants in their healthcare. So they can go to their doctors, say, is this something that I might have an issue with? Can we run these tests? And what's the goal,
So
right?
giving women the power to like own
Yeah, exactly.
their own process and their like
100%.
experience when they go to a physician versus like letting the physician just run everything and
Exactly.
dismiss them like the experiences you had.
And that's the thing. A lot of people think I'm anti birth control. I'm not at all anti birth control. My thing is, I believe in the access to birth control, but I also believe in informed consent. And I don't think women are given informed consent when it comes to going on birth control. And by that, I mean to be aware of the short and long term side effects, to understand how to support your body while on birth control, and then also other options that you might have. So, a lot of women go on birth control because of painful periods or PCOS or something like that. But there are natural things that you can do to support and mitigate a lot of those symptoms. So, if you've tried it and it doesn't work for you, then sure, go on birth control. If you have the information, sure, do it. I believe in the access, but I just think that women need to be more active participants in their healthcare.
Yeah, I mean, as a 16-year-old, when I was having heavy bleeding, my only thought process was, okay, I need to go on the pill. Didn't think of anything other than that as a solution. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like knowing your options. And thank you for clarifying that you still believe in Western medicine. I think that's important.
Yeah, I'm not all woo woo.
My father's going to hear this and be like, God, Kayla, who did you have on the podcast? No, just kidding.
No,
Just
I
kidding.
like to work, and I've with other clients, with clients that I've had, I've also worked with their medical teams. So I help them, I talk to them about getting certain tests done or bringing certain things up to their doctor so that they can have that active participation in their care.
That's incredible. So, who are the women you're primarily working with, like demographic wise? It must be a pretty wide range, but
It definitely is a wide range, but usually women 25 to 35 is kind of that sweet spot. I also do work with fertility awareness methods. So, avoiding pregnancy naturally, increasing chances of conception, and gathering data over your health. Fertility awareness methods also get a huge bad rap because it's an umbrella term that includes something like the rhythm method, which is, the
what's the umbrella term?
fertility awareness method.
Oh, okay.
So it's something like the apps that you put your period dates into your phone and it spits out when you may be ovulating, but that's only 75% effective. The method that I teach is called the symptothermal method, which you're tracking multiple biomarkers, which are signs that your body gives you in response to fluctuating hormones. And that method, when done correctly, is up to 99.6% effective. So pretty comparable to hormonal birth control.
Okay, because I have some friends that just use like an app to track their ovulation, their cycle, or the Aura Ring.
Risky.
It is risky. Why?
With the apps, it doesn't take into account like ovulation variability, right? So you can be really stressed out. And because of that stress or not eating or a life event, ovulation might get pushed, right? So if you've ever had a late period, it's not because your period was late, it was because ovulation was late. And an app or an algorithm can't confirm that for you, right? And also with the Aura Ring, I don't know if they've changed in the last few years, but I think it would be very difficult to get an accurate reading from your finger for your body temperature, which only helps to confirm once ovulation has taken place, not predict when it's about to start.
Okay, that's honestly really helpful to know. What about your, so going back to like some of your clients that you work with and tying this back to growing your platform, and you said, overnight you had 400,000 followers. Like that's explosive growth. So when you were getting to know your clients, I imagine a lot of these women that you were working with are more progressive spaces. So when October 7th happened, what happened to the Nicole that you were presenting yourself as online?
It was a very big wake up call. I think I had some naivety. So I had a big following on TikTok, and then over the last couple of years have built my following on Instagram. So at the time of October 7th, I had about 207,000 followers, I think was the number. And for me, it was, like you said, it's women who are compassionate and understanding and progressive. They'll, of course, understand that the murder of Jews is not okay. And especially because I was 2 weeks prior to October 7th, I was in Germany at a music festival. And I remember walking the streets of Germany, talking to who I thought were my friends, being like, it's actually crazy to be Jewish and standing here, seeing Nazi bunkers and walking freely on the streets. And I had multiple conversations of how interesting that was and how it was so sad, but also so empowering and incredible that we're still here. And then 2 weeks later, October 7th happened. And I think I waited a couple of days before I had posted anything. But once I posted, I got an influx of messages, and a lot of them were really horrible. And some of those were from the people that I was at this music festival with in Germany that I had these conversations with. And it was just so mind blowing to me to think that people could rationalize and justify and find it acceptable that all of the events of October 7th were warranted. And so, yeah, I was getting hundreds and hundreds of messages. And I've also always tried to be very compassionate, understanding, and confront my own biases, right? And especially when I first started talking about it, I wanted to be not neutral, but, I acknowledged the Palestinian plight, and that obviously wasn't good enough.
Well, I was going to ask you, like, what exactly did you post, right? Because you have this platform. A lot of people in your position at the time probably didn't post a single thing
Yeah, nobody did.
out of fear that their business, their platform would be jeopardized. You took a bold stance, and like, kudos to you for doing that and like staying true to who you were. But what was it exactly? I don't know if you
I could
remember.
find it
Oh,
if you want me to. I don't know if that'll.
if you, yeah, find it.
I reposted just Israel under attack, one of the Stand With Us posts, right? And I definitely got a lot of responses from that. And then I guess because I was getting all of these responses, I posted, and I'm reading this for the first time since that day. I do not and will never stand for the oppression of the Palestinian civilians who wish to live a peaceful life devoid of suffering. While I do not agree with many of the policies and actions of the government officials, the attack against Israel civilians is deplorable. Women are being raped, children locked in cages, elderly Holocaust survivors kidnapped, people tortured. Shani Luke, a young German tattoo artist, seemingly lifeless, naked body, being paraded through the streets with gun-wielding terrorists celebrating and praising God, is inconceivable. Never could I imagine that the rape, torture, kidnapping, and murder of hundreds of humans would incite celebrations on the streets of my home city, Toronto, nor London, or anywhere else in the world. The messages I've received naming these actions as justified, telling me these innocent people deserve this, calling me disgusting for condemning these soulless actions, leave me horrified, distraught, and heartbroken. When I was 14, I read the words of the Hamas Charter, in which calls for the obliteration of Israel and the murder of all Jews. The response to the situation confirms my fears. The celebrations of the actions that took place over the last 48 hours shows that this is not about simply freeing an oppressed people. If that were the case, people would be condemning the barbaric desecration of human lives. I do not want Palestinian lives to suffer. They have suffered enough. I do not want Israelis to suffer. They have suffered enough. I pray for the safe return of all of the Israeli citizens that have been kidnapped, and I pray that humanity prevails without further divide. My heart aches and I am petrified. It was honestly, from that day, so I remember sitting on my couch and I'm on my phone and I see something of Israel's under attack. So I start freaking out a little bit because one of my best friends is Israeli, and he's also a DJ. So it wouldn't be uncommon for him to be at something like Nova. And I remember messaging him and I asked, what's going on? I don't trust the media. He's like, what have you seen? And I was like, I don't know. I don't trust the media. What's going on? He's like, whatever you've seen, it's so much worse. And that, whatever you've seen, it's so much worse. From that moment, for the next 3 months, were really a blur, because it was losing friends. Like, my whole world was turned upside down, and getting all of these messages and Yeah, it was really just a blur at that point.
And had you spoken at all on your platform about being Jewish prior to this?
Not at all. And it's interesting because the few years prior to October 7th, I'd made a conscious decision in my head to stop hesitating before I said I was Jewish. Because I always felt like when someone would ask me about it, I'd kind of just hesitate before I would say it, which felt bad. It's like, why am I hesitating?
Yeah. But you
Um,
never know who you're talking to, right? And you're like,
well, that's the thing. And I think I had a lot of small anti-Semitic experiences that I didn't really recognize as being anti-Semitic, or I just thought was due to ignorance. So it'd be like sitting at a cafe in San Francisco and there was two guys beside me talking about how evil the Jews were. Or anytime I would say that I was Jewish, someone would ask me about Israel Palestine. And I'm like, I at
do you feel
that
like that
time,
was primarily in Toronto or just
no, all around the world.
because if you were to say Toronto, I'm like, I guess I'm not so surprised because of the influx of refugees going to Toronto now and how much,
No, and this is, I'm saying from like when I was a kid. Like when my dad lived in Spain, when I was young, he told me to hide my necklace. Don't tell people you're Jewish.
yeah.
Okay.
Spain's always
Spain's
been
always been a
bad.
place.
Yeah.
But even when I was traveling in Vietnam and throughout Southeast Asia, when I was traveling throughout the States, would often get that response. And I only went to Israel in 2018 on Birthright. And prior to that, had no connection really to Israel. And obviously, after I went to Birthright, I was like, oh, I love Israel. This is an amazing place. But I never really had a connection to Israel. So when someone would automatically ask me about Israel Palestine when I said I was Jewish, I'd be like, where's the connection here? And it wasn't until later on, I guess, that I realized there is a very, very, very thin line, if any, between anti Semitism and anti Zionism.
Yeah, isn't that crazy that you didn't really fully grasp that the two were connected though until you did go to Israel? And that just further proves the need for an organization like Birthright that's bringing hundreds of thousands of Jews annually to the state of Israel because people don't have the resources, the accessibility to go there on their own, nor are they maybe even willing to or care to. And it just totally reinforces the need for not only a Jewish state, but the need to actually like be a proud Jew and feel comfortable in your own skin, saying to people, not hesitating when
Absolutely.
someone asks you to be Jewish. But it's crazy that there is such a lack of of connection prior to going, like you mentioned.
Yeah. It was really funny when I went. I had posted, I was on the beach in Tel Aviv, and I had posted that on social media. I didn't have a following at this point. It was just like friends and family. And I had a couple people reach out to me being like, oh, did you go to Greece or go back to Spain? And I'm like, no, why? They're like, oh, I thought Israel was a war-torn country as I'm sitting on the beach in Tel Aviv. So I think that was the very first time I recognized the how much media has an influence on the perception of a place, right? I went to university for communication studies. So I've always been a little weary of especially legacy media, big corporations, stuff like that. But it wasn't until I went to Israel that first time in 2018 that I saw firsthand that the media can cause someone to have these insane ideas.
Yeah, and biases. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is crazy as a Jew to say that, right? So like imagine everyone else in the world seeing what's going on in the media. Of course they're going to think this country is war struck, war ridden. People are it's not a beautiful beach. It's not like a prosperous startup nation with so many smart people and so many beautiful people. It's just crazy that even like a Jewish woman could think that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think that. I was excited to go. It wasn't that I was fearful. It was just people in my circle that had mentioned that. But I'm sure, yeah, like you said, it does. So many people think that. And to your point, we are, as you always say, like 0.02% of the world's population. Most people have never met a Jew, let alone have had enough interactions with us to know who we are as people, to understand our values and our beliefs and all of that. And also for us to be loud enough. Like we're fighting against billions of
Yeah,
people.
like we're never going to be the loudest voice.
Like
We're just outnumbered out here. Like
hugely.
that's just a fact. So I guess it's less so about fighting the anti-Semitism and more so just like being Jewish and being who we are. Because what can you do at the end of the day? Like, what does fighting really mean? And where's fighting going to get us? We can only like protect ourselves and just live our best lives in every single way that we can and try to thrive.
And that's, I think, what social media helped me realize too, of, when all of this anti-Semitism was coming at me online, I was living by myself in Spain, had no community. I had one friend there. Like I had zero community, zero Jewish community. So I was isolated by myself, getting death threats and all of these messages. It was obviously very tough on my mental health. And so I think like almost every Jew during that time was really struggling with it. But a few times my family was like, Nicole, stop talking about it. It's obviously affecting you significantly. It's going to affect your business. Why are you still talking about it? And for me, there was no other option because I was seeing all of my friends and people back home volunteering, putting boxes together, donating, doing whatever they could to help. And everyone stood up and started to help. And for me, I was living in Spain by myself. I was helpless. Like, what could I do? And then I was like, Hashem gave me a platform. I'm going to use it. So I think for a long time, it was safer for Jews to hide and to just let people think whatever they wanted to and to kind of just go insular and stay within our communities and, talk about it amongst ourselves, but don't make a big ruffle about it. But I think especially now in the age of social media, we have the ability to be a voice to a lot more people and to reach a lot more people. So even if it's a small change, even if it's a few people, that's still making a huge impact. And you never really know how big of an impact that could make.
Yeah. So how have you changed your, whether it's like business strategy, even content strategy to incorporate more of your Jewish pride and identity into the work that you're doing since it's not solely focused on Jewish women, right? You're working with all different types of women.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for the few months after October 7th, I wasn't really posting much about my own business and my own content. But after that, I felt really connected to the hostages, especially Romy Gonen. And because she was at a music festival, she was 23, she had an older sister. I had a lot in common with her that I felt it was like, this could be me. So if there was anything that I would talk about, it was the hostages because they didn't do anything. They're still there. How are they still there so long after? It makes no sense to me. So that was my kind of what I latched onto so I could keep talking about it. And so since then, thank God, all of the hostages had been released. So now it's kind of like, how do I show up as a Jew? Rather than how do I fight for Israel and how do I fight for hostages, all of that, how do I just show up as a Jew? And so a lot of that for me is really subtle, to be honest. Like I'm a very private person on social media. I don't post much about my life and all of that, but it's small things. I never wore a necklace prior to October 7th, but I remember I was frantically trying to buy one because I was like, oh, if you're going to hate me because I'm Jewish, please let me show you that I am.
Yeah.
Please
let it be known.
Let it be known. Absolutely. Because I would get it that, a few days later, people would love my stuff, something would go viral, and then a few days later, they'd find out that I was Jewish and they would send me more messages. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just.
I love the way you handle it, though. This just made me think of something. We posted something after our storyteller trip, and someone commented something like, oh, well, she's a Zionist. And you were like, damn right I am. Like, or not, maybe not that exact, those exact words. Maybe that's something I would say. But it's just something like that in Nicole terminology.
Yeah.
But it was very like sassy and witty and just like kissy face. Mwah.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
I'm going to own it.
My mom always taught me, kill them with kindness.
Yeah.
And that I don't do well being a mean person. Like that's just not who I am. So for me, I'm going to try to just be as kind as possible. Again, understanding that people have these biases that they have and maybe it's not malicious. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and just be nice. And then you can't say anything to me. You can't say that I'm like a mean.
Yeah, what do they have bad to say about you other
Exactly.
than you're a Jewish Zionist? Like, okay, tell me I'm a Zionist. Perfect. Sure. I'll take that to the grave any day. Like, thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's funny. So I guess since you'd mentioned you went on Birthright in 2018, how many times now have you been back to Israel? Whether that's post 2018 or even post October 7th, and how have you incorporated your Israel trips into the work that you're doing?
So I went on my first Birthright trip, 2018, with my sister. We went on the extreme adventure one, which was really exciting because it was more hikes and in nature kind of thing.
Wow, I didn't even know that exists. There's just
Oh
so
yeah,
many
yeah.
different types of trips. I'm like, I don't even know half of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm so happy that I went with my sister too because she's the best and traveling with her is amazing. So I mean, it was great. It was an amazing trip. I ended up extending 3 separate times and stayed for another month, which was amazing. And then actually, prior to October 7th, I was like, I need to get to Israel. Like, I want to go visit my friends and, hang out. And I was planning on going, I think, in November.
Of 2023.
Yeah. But obviously, I didn't go at that point. And then one of my friends told me about a volunteer trip that Birthright does or did at the time because I guess they weren't running their regular trips. So they made a bunch of volunteer trips. So December 2023, again with my sister, went to Israel, and that trip was beyond anything I could expect. For me, it was kind of like, of course I'm going to come. Like, that's not even a thought. I want to be there. I want to support. I want to show that I stand with Israel. And so I got this opportunity to go on this trip. And when I was there, it was such a meaningful experience that is really difficult to put into words because, especially right after the war started, I guess there wasn't a lot of people coming. There wasn't a lot of people going to Israel. So when we landed, I would see people and they would start talking to me and ask me, what I was doing. I was like, oh, I'm coming to volunteer. And I would see in their face this, like, what? You're coming here now at this time? Like, what are you doing? But the amount of gratitude I felt was incredible. How much it meant to so many people that we were there, that we wanted to be there, that we wanted to help in any way that we could. And sure, our help was trimming tomato plants and picking grapefruits. But, the guy who ran the farm, he was telling us that because after October 7th, a lot of the Thai workers left, almost all of the Thai workers left. The king paid for all of them to go back to Thailand. And a lot of the Palestinian workers weren't allowed in. So they didn't have any workers on the farms. So they were like, I thought that I was going to have to leave at least 3 of my plots to, to dry out. But because you guys are here, even if it's small help, it's still helping immensely. So it was a really, really powerful experience. I made incredible friends that I'm, of course, still friends with to this day. And I built such a beautiful community. It was within 3 weeks of being in Israel, I made more of a community than I had in a year being in Spain. It was people, yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. So you feel like Birthright really impacted
Yeah,
the way you feel.
I love Birthright. Um, yeah, and then post that trip, I had gone back every 6 months. So
Oh,
I'd
that's
gone
quite often.
back
Yeah.
because I was living in Spain, so it was a quick flight. So I went, a couple more times, and then I got the opportunity to come on Storytellers, which was again just an incredible opportunity. And I think also going to Israel with these organized trips, and especially Birthright, that has this itinerary built out for you that you're able to see the country and you're also able to build these connections with people that you're on the trip with and other people in the community. I think that is one of the best ways to travel to Israel, especially as someone going for the first time, because you're going with other people that are there for the first time and you're getting to see so much and you're getting to build these incredible connections with awesome people.
And I think you mentioned this recently, or maybe we were just talking about it, but even just like the little bus rides along the way, like you're
Those are my
traveling
favorite.
from place to place on this big bus for those listening that maybe never have done Birthright, but you're on the bus with like the 50 people on your trip and you're going from place to place, from speaker to speaker, from lunch to dinner, whatever it may be, and going throughout the country with the same group of people. And those are the times that you bond the most. Honestly, it's like on the bus, you're singing songs. That's where I learned like Israeli music for the first time. It was
Really?
like on my bus ride with the soldiers on the trip, and now to this day, I'm still listening to my like Birthright 2018 playlist of all my like random songs that I don't understand. But yeah, you just like, it's just a different feeling being with everyone that's just like on the same wavelength as you. And that's something I never had growing up, really. Like I talk about this on my platform is, I really had my childhood besties who were Jewish, but then high school, college, like I really didn't have Jewish friends. And I think it's really important to be brought back to your roots. And Birthright certainly does such a beautiful job of like giving you just the ultimate experience in 10 days. It feels like you're there for a month with how much is packed into a 10-day journey. I also think too, like going as a 22-year-old, like I went in 2018 on regular Birthright and then Storytellers as a 29-year-old. Going at 22 years old was great. It was impactful, but like what I came back with, it didn't really I was still kind of the same person. Like I was exposed to Israel very lightly, but I wasn't the true Zionist that I am today. I'm sure a lot of that has to do with October 7th, obviously, and losing best friendships because of our differences. But going back and having the opportunity to go back as a real adult, as a 29-year-old, really just like instills it even further and instills that like drive and just meaning behind like why it's so important to go back and visit, whether that's on Birthright or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Birthright is always like the first thing that a lot of Jewish people do. And then it is that of continuing to go back that is so important. But I totally agree with you that coming back as an older person is a totally different experience. It's like, yeah, when we're young, it's
You're partying, you're going out, you're with the soldiers, you've like never seen an Israeli before. It's like so exotic. Still
yeah.
exotic as a 29, 30-year old, but it's a different type of exotic. And it's just we're more sure of ourselves at this age too. So like when we're going there, it's just our values are more aligned you know, with who we are as an individual. So it's just all the more impactful, I think. So would you ever make Aliyah, Nicole?
Would I?
Yeah.
I'm planning on it.
Oh, spill the tea. This is an interesting subject because you live in Toronto.
Yeah.
And I think the Jewish community sees how difficult it's been for Jews in Canada, but specifically Toronto. Can you maybe share a little bit about like what it's like being a Jew in Toronto now and like has that influenced your decision to go to Israel or was this prior to all
Yeah.
the chaos happening in Toronto?
So that didn't influence my decision much because I wanted to move to Israel before I moved back to Toronto. Toronto for me has never been my place. I've never felt very connected with it. I've traveled a lot. I've lived abroad. I've lived in a few different countries. And so I am someone who loves the beach and struggles with the winters in Toronto for sure. So already I'm like, need to get out of Toronto, but where am I going to go? And that's why, I lived in Spain for 2 years and I was thinking about staying there for a while. But then after going to Israel so many times and building out this community and then gaining a following of Israelis and like getting recognized in Israel, like getting recognized in Israel was so much fun. And it's definitely its own experience of why I want to move to Israel. But would I say that seeing the difficulties in Toronto and how bad it's become, yeah, it's not great.
And what's so bad
It's not
about
great.
Toronto?
I do live in a little bit of a delusional world that I'm like, most people are good. We're good. I don't need to stress about things. It's not so bad. But you hear a lot about the communities getting attacked. And one of my, I guess, distant cousins, he was at shul a few weeks ago and someone tried to get into the synagogue and the security kicked him out. And I guess when he got kicked out, my cousin was walking by with his stroller, his baby in his stroller, and he got punched in the face. And over the last 2 weeks, a few people have been shot at with pellet guns, like those replica firearms. And prior to this, and prior to me moving back to Toronto, I remember I would call my sister and we would be on FaceTime and I would just hear the Palestinian protests outside of her house every other day. It was aggressive. So yeah, there's quite a bit going on. And I guess Toronto is one of the places that has seen it a lot. But I also love the community that I live in. I love the people I'm around. So it's like, what are we working with? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard if that's like that is your home. and you still have family there. I know a lot of Canadians have moved down to Miami, so
I mean, that's the biggest joke in Toronto Jewish scene right now is like you're either making Aliyah to Israel or
or
to Miami.
Miami. Yeah, literally. No, every time I talk about like
Yeah.
my own experience with like wanting to potentially move to Israel, make Aliyah, I'm like, I didn't make Aliyah to Israel. I made it to Miami. I
Yeah.
made Aliyah to
There
Miami,
you go.
which is second best, I think, to Tel Aviv.
I honestly think it is, though. It seems to be the place that there's a lot of Jews and it seems to be pretty safe for you guys.
Yeah, no, I feel very, very grateful to be here and be in a place, and I don't take it for granted because, I was in New York, and while New York is the largest population of Jews outside of Israel, it's definitely, you don't see like the Jewish pride there. And it's definitely harder, at least it was for me, to like really build a community because it's just such a massive place and everyone's so hustle, work oriented. And I think Miami's a little bit more traditional in that way. Like you have the Sephardic Jews that live in Aventura who do Shabbat every Friday night. Like, I don't know, I wasn't, maybe it's just the people I surrounded myself with in New York, but I think it's very difficult to have a community there. Whereas in Miami, it's much more closely knit like it is in Israel, which is nice. And it's definitely unique, especially to like American society as
And I
well.
do think the vibe of it is similar in terms of when you meet someone here, they want to introduce you to other people. They want to invite you places. It's like, here, like, come be part of the community. That's what I really felt like in Israel with I would meet one person, they would introduce me to someone, and then I would have a huge community at that point. I was like, oh, wait, this
So
is so
true.
fun.
And then everyone has 20 mutual friends with that person, and
Exactly.
you just know a friend of a friend of a friend, and you're all connected. Yeah. In New York, that doesn't happen,
I feel like it
which is
might
so
be,
crazy.
I mean, I think because New York and Toronto, I feel like are similar in terms like it's
So
cold, it's a
multicultural
little bit,
too.
yeah.
You think it's the weather?
It's like cold, dark, and gray.
Yeah, at least most of the year. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, Miami, everyone's just happy. Everyone's friendly. Everyone comes here because they want to be here.
Yeah.
Versus New York, you're probably going there for a job opportunity or like right out of college. At least that's my experience. Like I moved here because I was like family, friends, Judaism, yalla, let's go.
Sunshine and palm trees.
Sunshine. Like I'm still working for my New York job. So I moved here because I wanted to be here. Versus New York, that might not be the case. But New York's a great city. I do think everyone that graduates college should go live in New York. Like everyone that graduates from American University or even Canadian, whatever, like should experience New York in their early 20s. But there's a time and a place for the hustle and bustle of New York, and it definitely did me well for many years.
I
But
think it's also certain people like it more.
for
Like
sure.
I know people in Toronto and Toronto I think is a great city. Toronto is a great city, but it's just not my vibe. Like I'm much more of a sea kind of person, like by the sea, palm trees, sunlight,
Yeah, more chill.
you
I don't
know.
see you in like a leather jacket walking through New York.
Oh
Like,
no?
well, I see you in a leather jacket, but not
Like
just
you
like
should have seen me a couple weeks
like
ago. I
yeah, a
was
few weeks ago in Toronto. But no, you're just like in your own world. You're like go go go. You're in the much more independent mindset in New York. It's a very different mentality, I think. So, um, anyway, well, Nicole, this has been so fun. My last question for you is, what would your advice be to other creators? Because a lot of Jewish creators, I'm sure, have been struggling over the last few years on like whether or not to be outspoken about their political beliefs, their Judaism, showing their Jewish pride. You were not afraid of that from the jump. So, what would be your advice to people that have a business, have a public facing platform that might be afraid to express how they feel?
I think the fear will always be there, but it's what's more important than the fear, right? It's courage is having fear and doing it anyways, right? So it's not necessarily that there has to be an absence of fear, but instead to have the courage to show up. And I don't think everybody needs to show up doing hasbara and being fully out there. And I think that's amazing. And if you have the ability to do that and the drive to do that, go for it. But if you show up in your most authentic self, genuinely helping people, genuinely doing good things, and you're also a Jew and people know you're a Jew, then I think that that gets combined. It gets people to see Jews in a positive light. Because for me, I talk about women's health, I talk about menstrual health. I think that I'm offering good advice and information, and people also see that I'm Jewish. You know what I mean? So it's a small signal. But if you're going to do it in a way that feels authentic to you. Do it in a way that is sustainable to you. Don't burn yourself out. But if it's as small as, wearing a Magen David or posting Shabbat Shalom on your stories, it's just these small signals that, one, show other Jews that you're there with them and we're riding this wave together, but also showing the diaspora and everybody else of the beauty that Jews bring to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that message. Thank you for saying that, Nicole. And thank you for being here. This has been so fun.
Thank you for having
Any
me.
last words?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think that
Maybe I
was
can
a,
come back on if I have more,
okay. Yeah, you can come back next week. Don't worry.
if the numbers do well.
If the numbers do well, we'll have you back. Don't worry, girl. Okay. Thanks, Nicole. You're the best. This is
Thank
awesome.
you.